Hello everyone, Kent Bressler here. I want to welcome you to Kent's Kidney Stories. During our time together over these podcasts, I'd like to discuss kidney disease. I'd like to tell you about my journey as a transplant patient, but also talk about dialysis, kidney donation, and just about anything else that might be of interest. Kent's Kidney Stories, a podcast endorsed and sponsored by kidneysolutions.org.
Hello, everyone. This is Kent Bressler, and we're going to do some podcasting. Do a little thing a little different tonight. Although we always start with prayer, there's some things that going to be very meaningful to me because I've been looking forward to this for a good long while. Can't really tell you how long, but it's been more than a couple weeks. So here we go. Let's do some praying. Let's get right and ready, okay? Dear Lord, we come to you with thanks and a willingness to listen. When we fail, we must remember that you're there to talk about. The idea of listening is where we fail. We know that you are constantly talking to us, but are we listening? There are no reasons to worry, for you are there to guide and focus on us. So, are we listening? Give us the gift of listening because we want to know your word. Bless those in need, Lord. And we ask this all in your holy name. Amen. I'm going to start right out. I don't need to give you any information about Kidney Solutions, because I think you're getting the idea that at Kidney Solutions, we spend a lot of time working with patients. We're focused on patients. And when patients do something really extreme, we want to bring it out. But we also want to make sure that everyone knows that we love them. That's just the part of this whole process. This kidney disease, if you don't have it, all right, it's tough for you to understand it. So if you're listening, you don't have kidney disease, take it with a grain of salt because we're kind of an elite group with the conditions that we have. And might add that this condition of kidney disease is lethal, all right? And the more we talk about it, the better it is. But in all of this, there is a real big blossom that comes up. Every time you talk, that blossom is big. It's called friendship, mentorship, and just forward thinking. And we're going to talk about that tonight because I've been waiting for this a long time. So what I want to do is tell you we had 2 transplants this week, one in New York City. Mr. Jodice had his, and he's home doing well. And a longtime friend who's been trying to find a kidney donor for at least 5 years that I know of, maybe 6, and was unsuccessful in almost 30 attempts. She got a call about a week ago, and she was transplanted. And I want to just, put yell out to Jessica Contreras, I know your kidney's working now, and we're real happy for you. And come back and tell us all about it sometime. All right, so let's get started. Tonight, a few weeks ago, I got this book, not weeks, days actually. I got this book from a friend of mine who comes to the support group, our kidney support group. He rarely misses. If he can't come on Monday, he comes on Thursday. And he's a very engaging, intelligent kidney walker. He's he'd been on a kidney journey for a long time. We're going to talk a little bit about this, and then we're going to talk quite a while on his book, his brand new book. And so we welcome author and kidney transplant recipient Leon Collins. Hello. Hey, Leon.
Hi, how's it going, Kent?
I have to laugh because I think about what you said the other night about Armand. He's constantly going, right?
Yeah, I am in complete awe of that man, and also completely jealous because I am a traveler as well. I haven't been able to travel as much, because at the time I was on dialysis and things like that. But
And COVID.
and COVID, yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Let's not forget that.
Right. But Armand is basically Dora the Explorer, just going from country to country, place to place,
You can't find a better attitude. And
Just-
what's really interesting about him
Hmm.
is meeting him for the first time, which I did 3 weeks ago in Washington.
Oh, okay.
When he and his wife Kathy, my wife's name is Kathy, walked in, and I knew right away who it was.
Hmm.
I knew right away, and I had my back turned, and I heard him say yes, and we're here to register. And the guy says, "Well, who are you?" And it's this Armand and Kathy Halter. I mean, it was very official.
By the way, that is an excellent impression of Armand. I applaud you for that. Most definitely.
he,
Love you,
he,
Armand.
he just, I tell you what, we've got some characters, especially in that group, but he takes
Yeah.
the cake. He's got pizzazz. He's got, I don't know what the word for it is, but he's got it, whatever it is. So, okay. So I got this book, and it's called
Right.
She.
Yes.
Before we start on she period, H period, E period. We'll talk about that in a minute. I want you to tell our listeners, folks that are listening to whenever they listen to this, I want you to do the version of what happened to you in your kidney journey, and then
Okay.
we'll go right into the book. So tell me about your kidney journey.
So I guess it really all began. There was one evening when my wife and I were actually going to go work out. I was going running. My wife was, going to walk. And, we were putting on our workout clothes and everything. And then just out of nowhere, I hear, "Whoa, what's going on with your ankles?" And I looked down, and my ankles were not severely swollen, but they were pretty swollen. Like the rest of my leg looked, pretty athletic as it normally does. But then at the bottom of my ankles, it was just super puffy. And I
Mm-hmm.
was kind of like, well, what's this? This is weird. It's never happened to me before. And I didn't think anything of it. Well, fast forward, a few months, and there's a certain point where I used to get off the bus going into downtown San Antonio, and I would walk the rest of the way to our office building because, my wife is an attorney, and I was the office manager for the law office, and the walk from where the bus dropped me off to the office building was nothing for me. I'd make the walk every day. It was no problem. However, I started getting short of breath walking to the office building. And I was like, wow, I must really be out of shape. And, being a former athlete, I would just push through it,
Yeah,
like
just keep
anything
going.
else. Yeah, just push through it. Yeah, you're short of breath, walk some more, work out some more, you'll be fine, you know? Well, as time went on, I became more and more short of breath to where I could literally only take a few steps before I got winded, you know?
Totally
And
winded. Sit down
totally.
winded.
Yeah, exactly. Like I would walk not even an eighth of the block and I would have to sit down on a bench. Like it was that bad. And so I finally went into the doctor. I went to the hospital actually because, you know, it had just become too much. And when I went to the hospital, they took my blood pressure and my temperature and everything else. And then all of a sudden, the nurse that was doing everything, she was kind of like the charge nurse, in the ER. And she just looked at the staff and was deathly afraid. Just the look on her face was of utter terror.
Yeah.
And she just was like, "Get him a bed, start him an IV right now." And they're like, "Well, okay, I understand that, but we've got these other patients." She goes, "Shut up. Get him a bed, get him an IV now." And I was like, "Okay." I know I don't feel great, but wow, okay, she's forsaking everyone else in the ER just to, you know, make sure I was okay. So I was like, okay, fine. But then I actually started looking at my blood pressure numbers and they were ridiculous. I was 180, I think it was 186 over 104, which
Whoa.
was, yeah, which is,
Whoa.
yeah, I've never had blood pressure.
That's not even blood pressure. That's
Yeah,
out of whack blood pressure.
exactly, exactly. And so, they wheel me in, they tell me, okay, well, you've got, you've got kidney disease, and all this other stuff. And, we need to start putting you on a diuretic and your life is going to change. I said, okay, well, wow. All right. And, still in shock. But then I had a very good doctor, a good nephrologist.
What was his name?
His name was Dr. Pandy.
Pandy. Okay. In San
And
Antonio.
in San Antonio, yes.
Yeah.
And Dr. Pandy told me that, you know, look, I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat this, and I'm not going to try and tell you something that is oh so hopeful when I know you need to do what you need to do to make sure that you're okay. He goes, I know doctors are going to tell you, oh, you can do this and you can do that and you can fight this off, but it's best that you go ahead and get yourself a fistula right now because you're slipping into kidney failure. It's going to happen. He goes, it could be months, it could be years, but it's going to happen. It's not anything that you're doing. It's not, don't think that you're living an unhealthy lifestyle anything like that. It's just that I'm looking at the numbers and the numbers are telling me something. And so I want to, at first I was a little skeptical, but I said, I want to be ready because I had heard about all the bad things that could happen with catheter.
Right.
And I said, that wasn't going to be me. I valued my life a little bit more than, any type of pride that I may have had. So I went ahead and got my fistulogram, my fistula put in. And surely enough, I had actually lost a good 30 pounds in between the time. In like 3 months, I lost 30 pounds. The doctor was super proud of me, but like the doctor predicted, I slipped in stage renal failure.
There you
You know,
go. Went right on dialysis.
I went right on dialysis
Okay.
without missing a beat. So I never really had to go through the whole catheter thing, which
Yeah.
was good, and I was able to start dialysis. Now, I will admit the dialysis was a journey for me because they said, okay, get on the list, once you're on the list, everything will be okay. So I said, all right, I did what I had to do. I got on the list and they were saying, oh, well, it'll only be, maybe 3 years, maybe 4 at the most,
Just
and
maybe.
maybe, yeah. I said, okay. And the funny thing is, I have a cousin by the name of Dr. Timothy Cotton in uh, in Houston, and he's a neurologist.
Okay.
And I of course, like I have something seriously medical going on with me. I turned to him for advice.
Sure.
Hey, what do I do? And he was just saying, well, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah, you should only be on the list for 2 to 3 years because you do well and you do what the doctors tell you and all that other stuff. So you should be fine as far as the list goes. I said, okay, fine. I waited on dialysis for 7 years.
Did anyone in their right mind advise you about living donors? Did anyone say, why don't you see if you can get a living donor?
That was also an interesting journey. Yes, they did. They encouraged me to.
Okay.
However, here's something that not a lot of people talk about, on the kidney journey I've discovered. And it definitely was a reality for me. When I was diagnosed and they told me that you're going to need a kidney transplant, you should look for a donor. I said, okay, I turned to family, I turned to friends, I turned to anybody that I knew. And, you know, to be honest with you, I was highly disappointed because not only did I not get a kidney from anyone, but I almost became a bit of a bit of a leper in their eyes.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. Yeah,
Everybody looked at me like, "Oh, well, Leon's about to die, so let's not get too close to him.
yeah,
Oh, well,
yeah, yeah,
Leon's on his way out, so let's just let him gracefully bow out, essentially, as opposed to really doing anything to help, you know?" And I understand that I had friends that I still do have friends, with children and things like
yeah, yeah,
that,
yeah,
spouses. I get that. But, I just felt very rejected, like extremely rejected to the point to where I was questioning some of the friendships that I had.
yeah.
I had put so much effort and so much heart into the friendships that I had that, to be rejected like this, it hurt. It sent me into a bit of a depression, to be honest with you, you
Yeah.
know?
This is all while you're on dialysis,
And this is all while I'm on dialysis, which
right?
that's even another story that
Yeah.
that didn't necessarily help things. But,
Well,
I mean, I,
excuse me.
oh, okay. No, but it was just one of those things where I just felt very abandoned, I felt very alone. And I got to the point where when I meet new people, I just wouldn't say anything.
Yeah.
I wouldn't talk to people about dialysis. You know, I wouldn't mention that,
You
"Oh,
needed a
well,
donor,
I
that you
needed a
needed a kidney
donor."
transplant. Yeah.
Nothing,
Yeah.
because, the way I saw it, well, if the people that I love are turning me away and telling me that, that there's essentially no room at the end, then what are these people that I just met gonna say? What are these people that I just you started forming relationships with? What are they gonna do when they find out that I need a kidney? I don't want to be that guy. I didn't want to be that guy. It's like, oh boy, here comes Leon. He's gonna ask somebody for a kidney. Oh,
Yeah.
everybody put on a jacket or something so he
Yeah.
doesn't need to have kidneys.
Let's clear the room.
Exactly. So, that
Well,
was
you
that, that
you
was tough.
told me that. You told me that early on when we met, when you
Yeah,
started coming to the support group. Matter of fact, that's how we really started, bumming around together is
yeah,
through the support group.
yeah, exactly.
So, and I think that's been good for you, kind of drew you out of your shell. But you tell them about jump forward to the night they gave you a call. You got a call.
Oh wow. So actually, it was during the day. We were in a bit of a situation where our weather wasn't all that great, and we're in San Antonio, Texas, so we get the smallest millimeter of snow and everything shuts down, right? We don't know how to handle snow down here in San Antonio. We
Or
don't,
ice,
or ice or anything.
anything winter.
Anything winter, no. Even heavy winds, everything shut down. But it was one of those things where the highway was iced over and it was really cold outside, but we could still drive on the streets. And the day before, I had a conversation with my wife about, that this kidney transplant donor list was, this waiting list, it was just something imaginary to help keep us going. Just something,
Oh,
just something to give us hope on dialysis.
yeah, yeah,
And that's truly how we were starting to feel because, like I
sure.
said, I've
And
been
that's
on that
after how many years?
7 years.
7 years. Yeah. So we're
Yeah,
talking 7 solid years, just like Jessica was. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Long time.
yeah,
Gosh.
three times a week, 4 hours a day. You know, so during that time, like I said, I was really feeling down, and I really felt like, well, this is just going to be my life. I can't necessarily try to fulfill the hopes and dreams that I had for the future, and this was going to be it.
Yeah.
And then I want to say February 3rd, we got you get phone calls on your cell phone all the time from phone numbers you don't recognize. And, you just kind of wave them off because telemarketers kind of have the same call from the same phone types of phone numbers, so you just let it go. And then and then my wife got the same phone call from the same number. And uh, you know, my wife, right after that call, because she let it go to voicemail too, she checked her, she got a text message. And then she goes, "Hey, did this phone number call you?" And I said, "Yeah, they just called. Like, why?" I just thought it was a telemarketer and I shrugged it off. Because they tell you that they can call you at any moment, any day,
Anytime. Yeah,
any time.
absolutely.
Right. Well, that's exactly what happened because when we checked out, who was calling, it was a lady calling and telling me that there was an available kidney, and asked politely if I would like
Oh,
it.
by the way,
Yeah, it's like I was, like, "Hi, my name is so and so, and I was just calling to see if you would like a kidney." Literally just like that.
yeah.
And I was floored. I was like,
Yeah.
wait, what? Wait, who is this? Because it was a little unbelievable at first, you know?
Well, it's only been 7 years.
Yeah, exactly. And so, after we kind of got our bearings, we were like, well, yeah, of course, I want a kidney. So she set me up to go to the hospital and get my blood work done and everything else and check in for the surgery. Now, here's the thing that I want everybody to know. And when they say that things are very random, they are very random because and you never know when you're really going to get the call because I had spent that amount of time just at my, my home base here in San Antonio, waiting for a kidney from, my local hospital. I wasn't a person who went out and got registered in a bunch of different hospitals in different
Right.
places. I was sticking to my home base, which was San Antonio and the Methodist hospital system. What happened was is that I brought up the icy day because the highway was frozen over.
Yeah,
You know,
the roads were closed, actually.
yeah, they
And during
were.
that period of time, that was during the weak ice storm that
Yeah,
never stopped,
uh-huh.
the winter from hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so I was actually number 9 on the list to receive a kidney. Number 9.
Ooh,
And literally 1 through 8, 1 through 8 literally all lived out of the state of Texas or they lived elsewhere in like North Texas,
right. They
West
were a
Texas.
long ways away.
Exactly. And so I literally was the only one who lived 15 minutes away from the hospital and was eligible to receive the kidney. So I had the opportunity of receiving the kidney because I lived 15 minutes away. And all those other people were, ahead of me on the list and because they would always say, "Oh, you're so close. Oh, you're so close." And
Yeah,
I
you're
would
getting towards the top.
exactly. And you get to a point where you don't believe that. You
Yeah.
really don't.
Yeah.
But this time, for sure, it was I definitely I was closer than I thought because I didn't even know I was in the top 10. But
Yeah.
then to be ninth on the list and selected to get the available kidney,
Yeah.
you know,
Very,
that was
very rare.
blessing. Yeah, it was a
Very
blessing.
rare. If you
Mhm.
get past the first one, you're lucky. You got through 8 of them, but that was for the weather conditions.
Yeah, exactly. So you
So did
truly
you
never
go
know.
in? Did you both go in? You and your wife go in? Or did you
Yes.
just venture?
Oh, no, no, no. We both went in. I literally packed the worst overnight bag that I could have just because I was trying to get out of the house and
Yeah.
get to where I was going. I think I had a pair of shorts that didn't match the 2 shirts that I had and a pair of sneakers, and literally that's all I had in the bag, nothing else.
And we're talking about sub-zero weather.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And my wife actually had to, once I checked in and everything, my wife actually had to come back to the house and get me, real clothes and real items for my stay at the hospital. So, yeah,
Well,
yeah,
at some point in time, we're going to come back to that, and we're going to talk over all of your journey. But I'm really I'm glad. How long have you had the kidney now?
so it was a year in February.
Okay, so you're just a year out,
Yeah,
not very
February
long.
3rd. Yeah.
All right. So just for the fun of it, you spend time writing. You're actually an author. We can
Yes,
spell that out for anybody who wants to know what that means. That means time consuming, that means research, that means thinking outside the box. Because this book, and I know you've written others,
yes.
but this book is, to me, something I haven't completed yet. I'm probably roughly half through, and it's still got me miffed. Okay.
Yeah.
I I I don't have any clue where you're headed or where it's headed,
Mhm.
but I want to hear how you got to write she. S
Okay.
period, H period, E period. All
Right.
right. And
So,
I should tell you that this is not under Leon, it's under
right.
Weston.
Yes, Weston L. Collins.
Weston L. Collins. That's your real name.
That's my pen name. Yes,
Aha.
Weston
Okay,
L.
that's your pen
Collins.
name. Gotcha. All right.
And real quick history as to why that's my pen name.
Yes.
Um, okay, so I came up with Weston because West was the last name of my grandmother. You know, like my
Mm-hmm.
I guess my you would call her my great aunt, and you know, I wanted to honor her in some way, shape, or form. So I took her last name as my first name for my pen name. So, and the reason why I even have a pen name where a lot of people don't use their real names is because of this reason. And I'll be very brief, I promise. Um, the reason why is because let's say you sign a contract with you know, with like a major company that
Yep.
promotes you or publishes you or represents you, right? Well, you know, when you start with in your career, you yes, you sell whatever product that it is you're selling. In my case, it would be books. But let's say I wanted to do something like speak at a college, or say I wanted to do something like be on a panel or something like that, or just whatever else that I do, you know, in my name. If I'm signed to a publishing deal, a lot of times those you know, those publishing companies, they get a piece of whatever it is that I'm doing because they're out there promoting me and selling
Mm-hmm.
books and
Mm-hmm.
everything else. Well, I learned of a person who literally just signed. He signed under his own name back in the early '90s. And what happened is that he got to the point where he was, you know, he was fairly famous. You know, going around touring, doing all kinds of stuff. He was a musician, and once once it was all over, you know, the record company found out about all of the things that he had been doing, and they calculated, well, you made an extra $30 million on the side, and you owe us 8% of that. So you need to pay us our 8%.
Right.
And so he didn't know what to do because you know he didn't have at the time he didn't have the money, you know, to pay them. You know you know his company that represented him. And so the interest kept accruing and accruing and accruing to the point to where he owed them so much money he could no longer go out and represent himself
Yeah.
as
Do what he
himself.
needed to do. Yeah.
Yeah, he couldn't because the production company or the record company rather they owned his name as an artist, so he could not appear as himself in public.
Right.
You know, he had to use, you know, like a different name or a different personality. Everybody knew it was him, but, you know, he could not use his own name. And so that's why a lot of authors have pen names. So
Okay.
that way we can operate in our daily lives without, you know, having to, you know, give that part of ourselves to, some other entity, you know?
Yeah, we become a slave.
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
And that's essentially what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the acknowledgments, I wanted to read something to you real quick, and because people listening and they went through our prayer tonight. You said I was told by other writers that men were incapable of writing female characters properly. And then
Yeah.
you went on to write in the acknowledgement, after doing a bit of research, I quickly realized it was as bad as they said.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. And then you go on and you said, and I thought it was impossible as a man to write female characters. But after much thought and debate, I realized, here's the kicker, the issue wasn't a man's ability to write female characters. Rather, it was an inability to listen.
Yes. Absolutely.
And I think that is, believe it or not, the crux of how this all took off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
It really is.
So embellish that. I mean, it's an amazing book. And another thing before you get started, you dedicated this to your wife, Jacqueline, and I some the other day said to me, that Leon is probably one of the kindest individuals we've ever seen on Facebook.
Hmm.
He just dotes over his wife. He's always got something nice to say. It's
Yeah.
almost like it's not possible anyone could be that much in love, but I think that's probably your vernacular here. This is where
I
you come
mean,
from.
here's the thing, she makes it easy. She really makes it easy. I mean, my wife is so accomplished and so loving and has taken care of me during my kidney transplant, during my time where, all the psychological stuff that was happening around the transplant, you know, the depression that I had to endure, recovering from the transplant. I mean, here's the thing. She really took care of me in those times where I literally thought that I was going to lose my mind sitting in a house completely isolated from everybody
Mhm.
because of COVID, because
Mhm.
of recovering from a kidney transplant.
Mhm.
I heard about the world opening back up a little bit more, but it never really opened back up for me because I was
It's
still
yeah.
immuno still taking immunosuppressants. I was still in a place to where I really couldn't be around anybody. And she made sure that I was okay. And I will forever and always love her for that.
Yeah, see? And that's what that people picked up on that. I think that in itself tells me the kind of character you are. You're not a character, you're a decent, really decent human being.
Thank
And
you.
and God chose, I think at this point, a man with strength, but he gave you somebody that could help you.
Yeah.
Gave you that loving mentor you needed. And be, I think that needed to be said.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
needed to be said about you and your wife, Jacqueline. And I look forward to a day where I can meet her.
Oh,
Okay,
cool.
so you have some real interesting titles here, all right?
Oh, yeah.
On the well, usually you just see, chapter 1, you go on to chapter 2, you go on to chapter 3, but you focused a lot on like the first chapter is vodka and gin.
Well, what it actually is, if you think about it, some of the stuff is wordplay, believe it or not.
Mhm.
Some of the stuff is more meaningful to like this the meat of the actual chapter. So let's take chapter 1, for example. It's called Vodka or Gin.
Mhm.
And
Not and gin or.
no, or right.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a specific reason. Because the first chapter is essentially the origin story of my protagonist. So, and she was, and her drinking really bad vodka was part of it. So it's
Mhm.
vodka or gin, as in her origin.
Mhm. Origin. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of little Easter eggs and throughout the book, especially for people who know me. Like one thing that made a good friend of mine laugh was that the place where she worked, my protagonist, is that she works at a place called LAC Pharmaceuticals, which is hilarious And when she first read it, she said she died laughing because she knows that my initials are LAC.
Yeah, I got it. Leon
Yeah.
A. Collins.
See? Yeah. So there's all sorts of little fun Easter eggs,
Excuse me.
in the story if you know me, you know. Um, Believe it or not, some of my own personal experiences are in the book too.
Well,
Like
this is something that I really shame on me for not getting through it. I tried like my darndest, but not having to go chapter by chapter. But you talk about your protagonist, and
yes,
without giving away any, I don't want you to give any. I want people to read this, okay? Because that's what this all about is talking about your authorship here and getting people to buy this book.
yeah, definitely.
It's not about you. It's not about me. It's not. It's about the protagonist and getting. We need people to go out and really find this book. All right.
Yeah.
You can do that through Amazon. It's there. All right.
It's paperback or Kindle. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And it's
so
it's way inexpensive. It's not over the top. It's a
yeah.
great book. All right. So here's the deal. Tell us about the protagonist. Or is that where you want to start? Or do you,
Yeah, I'll start there because that's kind of a big part of even why I wrote the book. I know that Ken shared a little bit with you guys about, some of the acknowledgments and how I came to write it. Well, that was one of the good things I will say about dialysis. It gave me a lot of time to actually sit down, slow down, and think.
ah,
Um, that because that definitely was not something that was a part of my life before. Before I was literally go, 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 hustle,
mm-hmm.
hustle, hustle all the time.
Yep.
I mean, I'm from Houston, so there's a reason why they call it, hustle town,
Right.
because
Yeah.
people are constantly on the move. Well, when I started writing the book, I saw how bad it was for women to actually see themselves in the characters that were being written by men. You know, at first I really didn't think that it was that big of a deal, that it wasn't as bad as it was. But then I really saw how bad it was. And I actually remember speaking to someone before I finished this book, and they told me something that, really touched me. Because in my research, I saw a few things that made me laugh, some things that broke my heart, like just quick examples of that stuff. One thing that made me laugh was that, and I'm talking to all the guys out there because as men, we really need to hear this. 98% of what women do, it's not for us. None of it's for us. It really isn't. Because a lot of guys think, oh, well, women wear makeup for us, or they do this so to do this for us, or to whatever for it. It's not for us, guys. It really isn't. And it's funny because my wife will go out and put on a new color of something, and it's simply to impress her other friends to say, oh, that's nice. Where did you get that from? Or it's simply to, make herself feel better about herself. It literally has nothing to do with you. Because here's the reality of it, guys, and I'm just going to be very honest. The person that you love, your wife or whoever it is, could come to you with a holy t-shirt, house shoes, and messy hair and say, hey, you want to hang out tonight? And we are there. We are
Yep.
there. There's
Yep.
there's there's no arguing, we are there. And I remember another friend of mine, she told me, she said, guys go out to bars and clubs dressed in thousands of dollars of clothes and jewelry and everything else, only to try to pick up a woman who's in a pair of $2 leggings.
Just came from the workout area
Yeah, basically. But
or the gym.
that's the world we live in.
Yeah.
And other things kind of broke my heart, like this seems very basic, and it doesn't seem like a lot, but it was really significant for me that simply saying no to a man is extremely dangerous, you know? I didn't really think that it was that bad. I was like, well, when I remember when I was dating, I really wish somebody would have just said no and they weren't interested, as opposed to allowing me to pay for dates and dinners and everything else.
Yeah, running the bill up.
Exactly. But, a friend of mine, she actually just kind of broke it down for me, because simply saying no could literally get you killed. Didn't know it happened as often as it did. And she showed me the article where this woman had told this man no at a Miami nightclub, just simply no, and walked away. She did it at least 3 or 4 different times. And then he commenced to run her over with his vehicle because she kept telling him no. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I would be on high alert after that. I would be worried after that for
Oh,
simply saying
beyond
no.
high alert. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And so simply saying no is scary for a lot of women, and that was not something that I was aware of. And then, of course, my friend made it a joke and said, "Well, you've been out of the game for years now because you're married. So let me kind of tell you what's been going on since you've retired."
See, that brings you to the research part of this book too, right? I mean,
Exactly,
you just
exactly.
didn't go write this on a whim. You actually spent a
No,
lot of time talking to the women in your life and probably others, right?
exactly. And I wanted to, before I go into the character, I wanted to explain something. I remember when you mentioned that it's not that men can't write women, it's that we have an inability to listen. What generally happens that I've noticed, um, is that as men, we believe in our own logic. We definitely do. And here's the thing, a lot of times we're unable to process things that are outside of that logic. And so when we hear something that we deem isn't logical, we basically ball it up, throw it away, and say, that's illogical. And because it's illogical, therefore it's invalid. And then we don't
Ah,
even try to comprehend or understand what's going on around us because, as far as we're concerned, because it's illogical, it's not worth even processing, you know?
yep.
And when people do that, you miss so much, as opposed to asking questions, taking the time to just say, okay, I don't exactly know why A plus B equals C, but A plus B equals C. So since I know that now, let's move forward.
But that's part of listening, right? Isn't that what you?
Definitely. It's
Yeah,
part of listening. Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. And you know, the problem, the issue that I see is that we don't really take the time to listen to each other. We just really don't. You know, there
I
there's
agree.
there's always people talking about, oh, there's this big disconnect between men and women, and it really isn't. It's the disconnect is your willingness to process something that you don't necessarily think is correct or feel is logical in the moment.
But at
If you're
least listen to it and do it, right? Think
Yeah,
about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. If you're willing to at least listen and attempt to process it, even though it doesn't necessarily make sense in the moment, then you can truly listen to what the other person has to say. And you can truly take in what they're saying and dissect it and, actually learn something new at times. Like I learned a lot of new stuff.
I'll
But
bet you did.
yeah, but going into my character, her name is Sharon. Okay. Sharon Lamb. And Sharon basically is she's a chemical engineer. Basically, she was a very, keep your head down, go to school, don't make too much noise. Just very, just not exactly, a good, just an out. She's not exactly an outgoing person, but she never felt that she had to be because she's just like, well, I'm a science nerd, and that's just the end of it
Yeah,
for me.
that's where I landed.
Yeah, exactly. So in her time of working, she starts working at the pharmaceutical company. And the research that she does is she helps create medicine that is basically made with, just is made using different types of radiation, which is a very real thing. It's not just science fiction. That's, a lot of the medicine that people use in today's world is actually treated with radiation, and radiation is used to create said medicine. So it's an actual thing.
Yeah.
Um, so essentially, what happens is that she has an accident in the lab, and this particular radiation completely floods her mind and her brain. And what the radiation does is that it literally opens up her brain cells to operate at full capacity.
Not
And
10%.
not 10%, no, she is literally using 100% of her brain. And
Mm-hmm.
with 100% of her brain, she can actually speak to people on a level that's different than our basic communication. So in in psychology, there's a part of the brain or the psyche that's called the id. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure you're aware of the id,
Mm-hmm.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
And for those who don't know, it's the part of our brain that's basically controlling our most primal needs. Like food, breathing. Just the most.
Sleeping.
Yes, yes, just the most basic
Basic.
basic needs of who you are. And the thing is, with her being able to use 100% of her brain, she could actually speak to that portion of a person's brain. And so if you can speak to that portion of a person's brain, you can control their most primary basic wants and needs. So because of that, she can essentially tell anybody what to do. She can hear thoughts. She has this whole world of, just brain function that's been opened up to her. And she has essentially the power to do whatever she wants. She has the power to will anyone to do whatever she wants. She can make people feel a certain way. She can, force people to want to do things for her. It really doesn't matter. And for somebody like Sharon, this is something that she has never experienced before, not even in her regular life. She never really got the guy that she wanted or the girl that she wanted. She never really got the opportunity to live the life that she wanted to live. She always was that keep your head down, do your work, be an introvert type person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this is the first time she has literally total freedom to do whatever she wants.
That is a great example of this character. I call her character, protagonist or whatever, but yeah, and we only use like 10% of our brain. So this is not a scientific thing. This is actually sci-fi, if you will,
Yeah.
but it makes you think. I'm
Yeah.
already wanting to read. I go chapter by chapter. It makes you want it. One thing I wanted to say too, that she's able to do this, but she's also able to reverse it.
Yeah.
So
She
there's a play here that maybe you put somebody in a position that they shouldn't be in, and you have maybe empathy or remorse for that and can reverse it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Again, she's because she can manipulate different parts of her brain, she can do different things as far as, like brain function is concerned. So I know that I will just say that there's a part where she meets a bus driver. And in the part where she meets the bus driver, he's experienced some serious trauma in his life, you know, and she's able to help him.
See, that's what I mean about this. It is it's a great book. I'm just kind of I'm glad that you've ventured out on that,
Yeah,
because I've read this to a point now where I want to read it. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
tell people, some people don't, if they don't like it, they put it down, never go back to it. But the key to a book is starting to read it and then all of a sudden knowing you got to read it, right?
Yeah.
That's the way it is with this book.
You know, in the back of the book, if you got a chance to read the back, you know, it's funny because I feel it speaks to, you know, just the human condition. Because when you've been given essentially absolute power, you know, you go one of two ways. You can either become a hero or you can become a monster, you know,
Yeah.
and it just really depends on your belief system and maybe how you were raised and a few other things, but it actually falls in line to what I like to call my villain theory.
What's your villain theory?
All right, brace yourself, and everybody out there, please brace yourselves for this. Here's my villain theory. You know, and this is of course, excluding anything that's complete derangement or any type of extreme mental health situation. Okay. Or a character so fictional that, it's an impossible situation. But just I'm just talking about your basic hero and your basic villain. Okay.
Okay.
My villain theory is this: heroes and villains aren't really different at all.
Ooh.
They're really not, because heroes and villains technically want the same thing. They both want a better world, right? Here's where the difference comes in. A hero believes in the power of people to create that better world and maintain it. The hero believes in their fellow man to be able to achieve that goal of a better world. Villains, however, they don't believe in the power of people to create a better world. They believe in their own power and that the people have already created a world that needs changing. And because of that, they don't believe in people. So they believe in their own power to change the world as they see fit so that it is better. And that's generally when I write books, a lot of times that's how I attack the age old debate of heroes versus villains.
So that's
Because
not so unbelievable. That
it's
actually is
not.
pretty truthful. And
Yeah,
you can go deeper into that, but you know what? It's the truth. That's
yeah,
why heroes wear a white hat, right? I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
they don't have to think much about it. They rely on people to make the world better. I get it. And the
Yeah,
villains, you don't sometimes, I guess in my mind, I don't know where they're coming from. All right.
yeah,
I really don't. I have a hard time with people who, you know, think about it's all me. Right.
yeah, exactly. And it's funny because and especially I make this analogy in the book that you know, say there's a little boy in a war-torn nation, right? And really, um, all he sees is the war going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
He knows that his father and mother are fighting in the war, right? And what they want, and what they're looking for is a better life, right?
For him.
For him, exactly. But the people who are fighting with them want to maintain their way of life. And so what they do is they fight against these other people to make sure that their lives aren't affected by these other people. So to the little boy, he sees his parents as the good guys because guess what? They're fighting for a better future for him. However, there's another little boy on the other side who sees the other little boy's parents as bad guys because they're looking to take everything away from
Him.
him and his family.
Yeah.
So it's the same way with heroes and villains. It's
Yep.
not necessarily as cut and dry as people like to make it out to be. It's not. It's really just two sides wanting to achieve the same goal, but both just have different means in doing it.
Yeah. And maybe some are successful, others aren't. You know,
Exactly.
heroes actually don't always succeed.
No, exactly. Exactly.
So
Exactly.
in this book, what what triggered, was it imagination? I know it's living experiences, which I get, all right? Because that's how you draw a lot of it in the book itself. But what is it that made you write this? What was the trigger? I know you said sitting in the dialysis chair, but you had to have an original thought. A lot of people don't have original thoughts. This
Well,
must have been original in your mind.
this was original to me because, again, my whole background in writing is science fiction.
Uh-huh.
I'm a sci-fi guy. You know, um, the thing is that I just would never see any accurate representation of women in a lot of these stories. Again, another one of those things that really drove me to write this was, um, it was an eye doctor who told me this, who was definitely interested in reading my novel. Essentially, what she told me was that, a lot of times she doesn't like to read novels written by men. And I asked why. And she told me, just point blank period, she said that she finds herself a lot of times reading books and she'll read it and say, well, okay, in this particular part, this isn't really what a woman would do or say in this particular situation. But you know what? I'm going to keep reading. I'm going to keep reading because I want to know what happens at the end. And, that part of it spoke to me more than a lot of things because I will say that I've spent time in my life where I haven't felt that I was heard. I've spent some time in my life where I felt that I didn't matter, or that my opinion didn't matter, or that I was wrong for even thinking anything otherwise than what was being fed to me, you know? And to essentially suffer in silence like that because you know all your complaints, all your fears, all your worries are just going to fall on deaf ears. It's terrible. It's a horrible feeling. It really is. And you know, I think about it, and the reason why I really wanted to write a book with an accurate female character is because I don't want anybody to ever feel like they're not being heard. I don't want anybody to feel that they're inaccurately being represented, you know? Because it's, at least for me, it was, growing up, I definitely had heroes. Some were in my family, others were, on TV, but, I just remember I guess you would call him my granduncle. His name was Dr. Timothy Cotton. Dr. Cotton was a storied professor at Texas Southern University, right? I mean, he was truly an amazing person, like truly amazing person. His adventures that he would go on and the people that he would meet were, you know, people think that I'm lying half the time when I tell people about that side of my family, but
I don't.
it's all very true. It really is. Like, he actually knew Dr. Martin Luther King and his staff. They would constantly go to Texas Southern and talk to him. Um, he discovered the first signs of bird flu in uh, in Houston because they were coming in because they were shipping in poultry and other livestock from the ship channel in Houston, and he figured out that that's where it was coming from. He made sure he helped out with the agriculture of the King Ranch to make sure that they were able to grow certain fruits and vegetables and things like that. I mean, the guy was amazing. Like, he really and truly was.
Would you not say they bordered on genius?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You
I think
know,
so.
I remember, I guess one of my fondest memories of him is that he told me he would always have these paintings like all over his house, from different artists. And I would just be like, okay, well, he's got art from his friends or whatever, right? And then I saw this one painting of it looked like it was a villager on their knees, and they were picking seeds off of a plant. And I remember the painting being there, and I was just like, oh, okay. And I just remembered it. And then one day when I was in college, there was a tour of uh, of paintings by Diego Rivera, and all of his works were in like glass cases, and there was
Hmm.
security
Hmm.
everywhere. Visiting this college campus, and I look up and I was like, oh, because I called him Uncle Tim. I'm like, that painting was in my Uncle Tim's house, like when I was a kid, and everybody laughed at me and thought I was just kidding. And I'm like, no, no, it
It's true.
wasn't.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. And then and then the guy walked up to me and he said, "Well, this painting was donated by a Miss Julianne Cotton, out of Houston, Texas." And I said,
Very
"Yeah,
nice.
Julie." I'm like, her name now is Julie Cotton Hearn, and that was my mom's best friend and cousin when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like my family, and they were like, really? And I actually was able to take out some pictures and show people, like, yeah, this is my family. This is Aunt Julie. This is his son. His name's,
Yeah.
Timothy Cotton. He's
Yeah.
and all this other stuff. And everybody was oh so shocked. But I didn't know that he knew Diego Rivera personally. Yeah.
you
Yeah. It was,
you you have a tremendous bandwidth. I don't think I've ever really experienced this type of. I'm sure I have, but I'm gonna give you grace here because I believe that this book reflects just exactly how you think. I mean,
yeah.
the old saying "outside the box" doesn't apply here. It's free flowing, it's matter of fact, but it's deep.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, so here's the one weird thing that I will say about this book and a lot of the books that I write. The way that I'm able to write characters a lot of times is that it's almost like I have a closet in my house. And what I do is if I say, you know what, I'm writing this particular book and I'm writing about this particular character, I will go in that closet, put on the suit of that character, and say, okay, now I'm this person. Now, what does my life look like?
That's what I mean.
Where
That's
do I live?
exactly what I mean.
Where do I live? What do I like doing? What do I don't like? You know, who do I like to be around? Who are my friends? And I ask myself these questions, and I close my eyes, and I can see the way that I develop characters. A lot of times, and I generally go from there. Is that I put on that suit, and I close my eyes, and I say, what would a perfect day be like for this person? What would it look like? Where would I be? What would I eat during that day? You know, what what would be surrounding my life to make me feel certain emotions? What would be something that I wouldn't like to happen in a day, but it happened? And what would I do if that one thing that I didn't want to happen happened? You know?
Yeah.
And when I start being able to answer those questions, it's almost like I can become that person and then write in their voice and with their bandwidth and everything else, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's going to play out. Like I said, I can't imagine not finishing. I need to hurry up so I can see. Let's go. What would be well before I ask you this question?
Mm.
How many other books have you written? Actually written again, published, and where are you at right now, standing publishing wise?
Publishing wise, there are a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 books, and then I was featured in Chicken Soup for the Soul, Mom Knows Best.
So relatively young in the field, but you've got some nice work. And you
Yeah.
don't have to be, okay, here's the question.
Hmm.
What kind of person would enjoy this book? What would
Oh,
you, when you hear, you're going to tell people who should be reading this book?
so I will say that if you read this book, you definitely should be over the age of 18.
Okay.
That's the first thing. Yeah, 12-year-olds don't really need to pick up this book and try to
No.
read it. Um, the other thing I will say is that, you know, anybody who enjoys science fiction definitely should read it. Even
Okay.
people who aren't necessarily fans of science fiction would actually like this because of, the story and how the life of my protagonist is led, I think is extremely interesting to people. Like, and that to me, that's how here's my cheat code that I use to see if a book is good or not. My wife isn't necessarily the hugest sci-fi person,
Now, neither am I.
and she's married to me, which is
Yeah.
weird, honestly.
Opposites attract.
Honestly, exactly. And so if she reads it and she's like, even though I'm not that into sci-fi, this is good. I like the story, and it takes me to places that, I never really imagined to go, but I'm here now and I like it. And when I get that type of response, that's when I know
Yeah.
I've got something.
Yeah.
That's when I know that, hey, I'm working with a hit. So I mean, yeah, that's
Okay.
generally who this is for.
That's right. It's not for an informed reader. You got to go in there just with the lilt that you're going to find out what's going on. It's
Yeah.
kind of like it's kind of like an adventure book to me. Now that I
Yeah.
think about it, it's like an adventure, and you know what? Just open your mind and read it. Okay, so you don't like it, fine, pitch it in the corner. But if you do, let's tell people about it.
Right.
So
Now, I will tell you this, and this is for people who are definitely gonna, people who are readers who definitely might try to hold my feet to the fire for, certain things not necessarily being 1,000% accurate in one part and then that same percentage in another part. Here's the thing. Sharon, my protagonist, she's an unreliable narrator. Okay.
yeah,
Because guess what? Human beings are unreliable narrators in their real lives. Okay. So here's something, and again, I'm going to share something with you that I learned in my research, and again by talking to women to actually obtain the knowledge that I needed to write the book. So there's a part in the book where Sharon talks about you know guys and certain women not liking her, not romantically at least,
hmm,
and how she just wasn't that person to get the attractive person, right? Well, the reality of it is you come to find out later that, well, the thing is she definitely had people who liked her. She was definitely on someone's radar, but it just really wasn't the people that she wanted,
yeah,
you know?
right,
And so I say that because, like one thing that I learned again in researching is that people love to speak in absolutes, you know? People love to sit there and say, oh, well, you know, I'll never get a promotion at my job. And there just doesn't seem, like a real way that I can climb the ladder. Or I'll never be married, or I'll never have a boyfriend, or I'll never have a girlfriend, or I'll never have a wife, whatever, right? But here's the thing, you know, there's somebody out there who definitely likes you, that wants to be with you. There's definitely a way that you can move up the corporate ladder or any ladder at any business. The issue then becomes, especially with the business side of it, like, are you willing to do absolutely what it takes to move to that next level?
hmm,
As far as the relationship side of it is, yes, this is what you want, but you need to finish the rest of the sentence because I don't think people really do that. It's like okay, best example I can give you is of someone saying that, oh, I just want someone who loves me. And then they leave it at that. And
Not
so,
because or I wish
yeah,
or
exactly. And you sit there and you people hear that and they think, oh, well, all they want is someone that loves them, and that's it. Well, no, the reality is I want someone who loves me and looks a certain way and has stability and it's a certain type of stability and comes from a good family and all these other things, but it's shortened a lot of times to simply, oh, I just want someone who loves me. So you can't sit there and say, oh, well, I love you, I should be good enough. And it's like, well, no, like
that doesn't catch it.
no, it doesn't, like you have to be able to look into what that actually means, because again, people love speaking in absolutes.
And it's, also too, not only absolutes, but just, finite, finale, stop.
Yeah,
I don't need to discuss it. I don't need to explain it because you should know about it already. Right?
yeah,
You should have a feeling that of how I feel. But you do
yeah,
have to, and yeah, it's in the kidney world too. You have to express where you're at with the disease because people can't anticipate. They can't figure it out. You got to tell them.
yeah,
So
exactly.
cutting it off for absolute, like you said, that doesn't catch it. It doesn't work. It's
No,
tough.
it doesn't. It
Yeah.
really doesn't.
Okay, so I think we're going to wrap this up
Yeah,
because I can sit here till noon tomorrow and I'd be happy with that, but that ain't working.
yeah,
Anyway,
I understand.
yeah, listen, you've given the people without, spilling the beans here. You've given people an idea of how important it is for them to check out Sharon. All right.
Yes, definitely.
And that's all we wanted out of this situation, other than to tap your mind on how in the world a person could write a sci-fi or several of them.
Yeah, I mean,
And yeah, so here's the last shot before we stop. Do you think in your own heart that this is a good book?
absolutely, absolutely, because for a few reasons, you know, I feel that a it's a great story. It's a story of growth, change, and someone truly taking ownership of themselves and the way they shape the world. You know, another thing that you can definitely take from this book is, you know, accurate female representation, truly accurate female representation. Because honestly, you know, I and I will apologize on the behalf of male creators, male writers, male authors, because a lot of times we write things from the male gaze and we really don't try to look deeper than that.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
don't. And, you know, I hope beyond all hope, I truly pray that women can read this book and don't have to have the same reaction that my eye doctor had of saying, you know, this isn't what a woman would actually do or say in this situation, but I'm going to accept this because I want to know what happens at the end.
Mhm.
I don't want anybody to feel unseen. I don't want anyone to feel unheard. I want people to be able to see themselves in all the characters.
It's it's perfect. So, after the person reads this book, someone, everyone, or a lot of people want, how can they get a hold of you for comment? Do you have a web page? Do you have a Facebook page? Is there any way that people could, hey, where in the world were you going with that? Or,
Sure,
this was
sure,
great.
of
So how do
course.
we do that?
So if you let's see, so I'm on TikTok, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram and Facebook. On Facebook, I am simply Weston L. Collins. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And you'll see me with my with my prayer beads and a white T-shirt on the
See,
page. And then I'm also on Instagram. It's just author underscore Weston underscore L underscore Collins.
okay.
Yeah. And then I'm also on TikTok as Weston underscore L underscore 2017. And you can contact me through any one of those mediums, and I definitely would be willing to talk to you, possibly be on another podcast and talk
That's
about
what
this.
that's what I want to do. That's exactly what I want to do. And you're going to get Jim's show. Jim's going to bring you on, which is a hoot. All right. You'll be interrogated, but trust me, it's a good form of your wife probably ought to. She could probably pick up some really good tips from that ex-attorney. So bear that in mind. And that's spoken from my heart about that man. Okay. But you better make sure your shirt's buttoned because you could lose it if you when you get in the
I
room with him. All
from
right.
what
And
I hear, that is definitely a possibility. But and honestly, here's something else that I kind of want to leave everybody with. You know, I tried my darndest to create an accurate female character. I really did. I put a lot of effort, research, hard work, into this particular character to make her as authentic as possible. But here's the thing, the most important thing that I want everybody to take from this. If I failed at doing so, I'm completely okay with that. And I'm completely okay with that because I feel like this book is, knowing the story behind this book, I feel like I'm starting a bigger conversation. And the
I
bigger
think you
con-
are too.
and
I think you are too.
and the
Exactly.
yeah, and for the bigger conversation is, you know, why don't we write better female characters as men? Why
Mm.
aren't we listening more? Why aren't we actually using the skills that we know that we have to create better characters, to make more accurate characters so that everybody can enjoy our works?
Listen, listen. That's what I got out of it. And it's kind of interesting to me that my prayer tonight was centered around that. And that was subconscious. That was not conscious. I didn't focus a prayer on listening. It came to me. So that in itself probably tells me that the book's got me. All right. All right. And let me say this about that. For an individual who's only a year out with a kidney transplant, you're doing all the things that you need to do to incorporate longevity into this. All right. Not
Right.
talking about you, but I'm talking about you personally.
Yeah.
And I want you to remember one thing, that Kidney Solutions and the family that you've gotten into is always going to be here. And I'm hoping and praying that you'll be able to grasp this and carry everything on with the people that really need it. And that's kidney patients.
Oh yeah,
Right.
definitely.
All right.
Definitely.
And maybe there's a character, maybe there, from your experiences, maybe there's a kidney character within your mind at some point in time. And
Oh yeah.
we need to embrace that. All right.
There definitely is. There's a few ideas swirling around up there. There's actually one thing is actually based on something that kind of sort of happened in the clinic with a couple of patients. I'm obviously not going to give away their
Oh
names, but
no, no, no,
no,
no,
not doing that. But
no.
what I will say is that there was a guy who came in, kidney disease first. He had his, he was going through it. He really was, and he was a younger guy, close to my age, right?
Mm-hmm.
The nurse was also very close to my age. She would I would be in we would be in the same section. So she would always make sure that, like we weren't bleeding out or, getting cramps or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, one day I hear or I see that he's not there in the chair. And I don't see the nurse anymore either. Come to find out, they had actually fallen in love with each other. She gave him a kidney to get
Yeah.
out of to be out done with dialysis, and now they live somewhere, I think, like in either Dallas or Fort Worth,
Yeah. And
just
married.
and married, yeah.
Yeah. See, there you
Raising
go.
a family. Yeah.
Yeah. Kidney disease follows you everywhere, but it also provides you monuments of opportunity.
Yeah.
You've seen that already. And I
Oh,
want to
definitely.
express to you my gracious thanks for coming on and doing this. And we're going to do this again. We're going to do more. I'll let you experience Jim Meyer's show, and then we'll go we'll go from there. And
Gotcha.
I definitely will be on that night you're there. I will again.
Oh,
Thank you so much. And
oh yeah, no problem, Ken.
you've
Thank you for having me.
yeah, well, thank you for being a kidney warrior. That's what you're going to experience that more and more. You're going to be a very big help, and we hope you can help us out at Kidney Solutions one of these days for sure.
Oh
We're
yeah,
looking forward to it.
definitely.
All right. Okay, everybody. The book is called She, S. H. E.
Mhm.
by Weston L. Collins, aka Leon Collins. Pick it up at Amazon, pick it up anywhere. It's a nice read. And just
Oh,
experience it. There's no reason for you not to experience it. And then if you really have any trouble with the commenting section, you want to comment, get a hold of me. I'll let you. I'll put you in touch with Leon.
yeah,
He'd be
definitely.
more than happy. Definitely come through Kidney Solutions. We got this. All
Oh,
right.
and by the way, definitely check out, who we affectionately call Uncle Jim's podcast,
Absolutely. Yeah.
because there was a whole other journey that I didn't get to talk about today about the artwork for the book.
Okay.
I will just say that the male gaze is extremely, extremely strong, and sometimes it cannot be worked around.
Okay.
And I'll elaborate on that more, you know.
When you talk with Jim.
Exactly, exactly.
I'll remind you if it doesn't get up. I'll be telling you. Okay, Mr. Weston Leon. I appreciate you a bunch. And okay, everybody out there, go get the book and read it.
Yeah,
She.
Kindle, paperback, doesn't matter.
There you go.
On Amazon.
Just type it in and it's there. Get it. And we'll talk to you later. And remember, as we say, keep on breathing.